It's a time for more packages from China. Let's go. Alright, so the number 5 position is the nostalgic classic arcade game. So the reason I want to put it in here, because this thing is a quite interesting box. It does have like a lot of cool features, but it is not of course like a powerhouse or an emulation beast. No, not at all. It comes with a cool nostalgia design. I must say that they nailed it with that one. But just let's do a quick unboxing and I will show you what I mean when it comes to, let's put it this way, what are we actually going to get and why does it really surprise me? Let's go. The device itself looks like a weird Famicom mini version, but it comes with PlayStation 1 controllers. That makes no sense whatsoever. But what are we going to get? That is of course the main question. So first of all, I really like what I'm seeing with this. Look at this, how tiny it is. Now I must say that they're quite creative. Like these are not like knockoffs that we have seen before. So let's see what we're going to get more in the box. We're going to get 2 wireless controllers. And as the package says, it's a 2.4 GHz edition. So what are we going to get more? We're going to get the dongle for the controllers. Then we're going to get ourselves the micro USB cable and the toilet paper manual deluxe edition. Okay, so that basically explains like what you need to do with it to connect it, stuff like that, quick explanations. And let's see an HDMI cable, because this thing has an HDMI functionality. So quite interesting. I'm curious what we can play with it and how good it is. So the system itself, let's take a close look at that first. Okay, so you can see like when you compare it with my hands, this thing is really tiny. So the weird thing is like there is no on or off switch. This doesn't do anything. So at the back we're going to get 2 USB connections, an HDMI out, with here the TF card, and then we're going to get the micro SD. That is basically with only 32 GB over here. So that's it, an original SanDisk, or I think it's an original one, and the micro USB. And with this we can basically connect it with a 5V power supply. Right now like rubbery feet on it. Here it says already like needs 5V 1 amp. So that is not a lot, but so far I can see there is there's absolutely like no on and off switch. So that's a little bit of a bummer and weird. Okay, so we're going to get the configuration of 1 dongle and 2 controllers. Only going to basically like show you one over here. But the controller quality, this is more like the medium quality. Because the lower and like the cheap to the cheap have like these really weird joysticks, like kind of weird plastic. And this thing has some rubbery grip on it. The touch itself, the D-pad, but also the buttons, it's not comparable with the original PlayStation 2 controllers, but it is better than basically most that I've reviewed here. Okay, 2 AAA batteries are needed for powering it on. We're having an on and off switch over here, and let's do the smell test. It doesn't smell chemical at all, so that's a very positive thing. But let's take a close look. Let's plug in the device in my television and just see what we're going to get. Okay, so let's take a close look at the menu itself. Plugging it in is like super easy, but the only thing I don't like, there is no on and off switch. When you're going to plug it in the USB power, it's going to be powering on, and there is no way of powering it off. Kind of weird, if you ask me. But when the system has been booted up, what you're going to get is one big gigantic pile of a list. A little bit of a bummer, because same with the, let's say the first generation of Pandora's boxes. So pressing the R button, here we're going to see like an overview of all the systems that we can play with this. So quite a, let's say, big compatibility. Arcade, Famicom, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, PlayStation, Neo Geo, Mega Drive, Game Gear, Game Boy Color. And if you're going to basically going over here, you're going to even have like Super Famicom. It's, in my opinion, a little bit of a basic list of systems, because nowadays we're having way better options with different systems. Then we're going to get the save options. Quite interesting that we have like a separate section for the saves. Then we're going to get favorites. Scanning, this means like basically you can search for a game. Kind of weird saying like scanning. Okay, when pressing the X button, we can go to the list over here. Then we can choose our game. But it doesn't really say like what platform it is. So we're having like 2 Mortal Kombat 4, but no idea. Like, is it for the Game Boy? Is it for the PlayStation 1? No idea. So then we're going to get the files. The files is basically where you can mess around with the files, delete stuff. Settings, language, display. What I do like about this option here, we can put it in the original aspect ratio. And then we're going to get clear. So with clear, I want to say like, don't clear the data, don't mess around with it. The same goes with store, and with version here you can see like what version you're having. So this is like a quick overview of the menu and what you're going to get. Kind of clunky and basic, but it will work. But especially the file, this first list of files, this is like a freaking nightmare. Okay, so first let's try the controller just to see how the D-pad responds. I must say, like, I am surprised to see that it is quite good. It's not my favorite controller, I can say that, but overall, it's not bad. So when it comes to the controller, they're actually going to give you like a very nice one. Good connection, no input lag in my opinion, and the D-pad is very good. The system itself is running RetroArch on the background, and this is what you're going to get when pressing select and start when we're booted up a game. So here you can see like we have some option with RetroArch. So far I can see I cannot get into the big menu where we can maybe change out emulators, stuff like that. Yeah, so this is what you're going to see. We can quick load, quick save, change the inputs. So there are a lot of things you can change out. That's very good. But you need to go every time to this menu, start, quick RetroArch, and then you can go back to this main menu. Okay, the first game I wanted to try is Super Famicom. So when I was going through the menu, I already noticed some lag here and there, especially in the audio. So I can just hear some crackling noise. And no, that is not actually like the speaker is going down. No, this is absolutely like an emulation issue. Still, the frame rate of the gameplay is quite good. But let's be honest, like nowadays we can play so many of these games. But slowdowns in this game is absolutely unforgivable, especially with the 16-bit stuff. Okay, so next up let's try some arcade games. And I just wanted to see how fast and how responsive this game is. So with this you don't see or hear any lags. I did see some flickering with the shadows when I choose a character, but beside that, got a very good performance and overall. Okay, so let's go back to the display settings. Equal proportion, that's what I love to call it. So let's see what happens. Let's try boot up some games and just see how it looks now. Okay, so another issue that occurred when making this video and just wanted to show you is like when I booted up an NES game, sadly I just going to get again the welcome screen when I'm booting it up, and it was just stuck. The only thing that it does is basically showing this. Just wanted to point out, so even the games, as high as possible, and it doesn't boot up. But you can see that the aspect ratio option seems to be working fine, and finally found a freaking game that actually boots up. Fun fact, like because of the PlayStation controller we have more than 2 buttons that we're actually going to need an 8-bit, but they basically map the other ones to turbo buttons, so it's quite interesting. Okay, so next up let's try Sega Mega Drive, and it seems to be that they map the buttons quite strange. That's of course because we're using a PlayStation controller for actually like normally having like a 3 or 6 button controller. But so I can see and hear this works very damn good. Oh, love the shield. Okay, so next up let's try PlayStation 1. PlayStation 1, I noticed with some part of the game it still struggles. So PlayStation 1 is not like a very good thing to play on this, I can already tell you that. So actually a lot of parts of the game plays very well. I still notice some hiccups here and there, something I find quite unforgivable when it comes to this. So the next one is this version. It's from the famous brand, like with the little guy in the controller, called Game. They released all kinds of versions, but this PlayStation 5 Mini is kinda cool. And again, it's not an emulation beast whatsoever. But the thing that was kinda cool, like the first model they released, it was like this weird looking PlayStation 5, can only play 8-bit games, like, oh, 8-bit games. But the thing is, this thing could actually play more than 8-bit, and that had just some really cool things to it. Just let's take a close look at this. Alright, so this thing often comes with, like, I think it's a seal of approval. I don't know what it is, like they're like using stickers to close the box. I didn't even open it up before, I just want to do this in the video. But nevertheless, let's open it up and let's see what are we going to get in the inside. A lot of plastic, fantastic. The first model of review didn't even came with a box. Take consideration when you're buying stuff like this. Sometimes they show a box, but you're not going to get it. Yeah, actually that happens. So I'm thinking they're reusing the same shell like we've seen before, only they added some new features. So to begin with, we do have like a volume control at the front, the on and off switch over here, 2 USB ports. And I think the design itself is almost like identical to the previous one we have seen. So this one comes with HDMI, input micro USB for the charging or powering. It really don't charge anything. It comes with a CF card, 128 gigabytes, so this is the biggest one. They also sell it like in all kinds of different versions. And let's see what we're going to get more in the package. So HDMI cable. We're going to get ourselves the toilet paper manual box, but here you can see like this thing is a multi-emulator. I think it's pretty damn cool. That I don't understand why they didn't do this the first time that they created something like this. The dongle, and I'm thinking we're going to get this situation that we do have like 2 controllers and 1 dongle, so that's pretty damn neat. I love it. We're going to get a stand, and of course the micro USB cable, but there's no power supply. So what we're going to do is grab ourselves a phone charger, just a typical basic one. So this is not a fast charger, this is like a 2000 milliamp, 5 volt, nothing very fancy. Of course you can try to use the power 5 volt from your television, but I always recommend using a separate power supply for that. Alright, so let's take a close look at the controller. This is something that we have seen before here. I reviewed this plug and play system with the PlayStation 5 controllers. Yeah, this is absolutely the same story, really cheap. You can just hear it, and most important thing is the smelly test. Yeah, you can just smell it. It's like a really chemical plastic, really cheap ones. The joystick feel very basic flimsy. Even my right click doesn't even work with this one. Yeah, that is how bad the quality is of these things. It's absolutely garbage. It's just a fact. So opening it up. Oh, opening up. Oh, damn it. I need to get myself a tool or something because they are like so tight. So here we're going to get ourselves the 2 AAA battery that we need to put in. There's no like a lithium battery inside. That's it, like an on and off switch. Super basic. A lot of plastic, fantastic. Alright, so let's put the stand on, and this thing will look very cool. If I can figure out how to put it on. Yeah, there it goes. So what I like about this stand is it comes with very nice rubber feet, so it will just give you like a very good grip on here. Okay guys, so when you're looking at the design and the thing that they're delivering you, it's absolutely low quality. But what I find the most interesting thing about it, like I can still remember that some fellow YouTubers made videos about the 8-bit version saying, hey, you need to slap a Pi in it, but maybe that is not even necessary. With this new GS5 model, we do have options just to play all kinds of retro games. So let's plug in this bad boy in HDMI and let's see what are we going to get. Alright, so I'm powering on the device itself. This is basically what you're going to get. The loading screen, and then, as I'm saying it correctly, we're going to get us out the Game Station 4K, because that's basically what kind of software this thing is running on. So when powered on, this is what we're going to get. It's going to be like a similar Pandora's box menu, and here at the top we're also going to get the same kind of functionalities. So what's quite interesting, I don't know if you can hear it, but you will have a double bleep, and the reason why, because this thing has an internal speaker. But that's the reason why this thing has at the front of the device a volume control. Kind of interesting because you can basically control the volume and you will show it up in the display, but it's basically only for the internal speaker. At the top over here we're going to get the gigantic pile of list of games. Then we're going to get history, favorite, search and category. It looks kind of hideous because it's not even showing up fully on the freaking screen. And you can navigate through this, and let's take a close look at the category. The device itself has support for 8-bit, 16-bit, like the same stuff that I've seen before. Like they already messed it up with the Game Boy logo. They're using an N64 logo, kind of confusing. So what you're going to get basically is the same stuff that I've seen before. What they also messed up, like here, you have the Game Boy Color logo with the PlayStation 1. Like, what the hell? So when choosing in category, what it basically does is loading up like this. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to get stuck. That is something we need to... but I think we need to wait for some time, but the way this menu works is kind of clunky, and yeah, it seems to be stuck. Alright, great. Oh no, it's ready. So finally they load up all of the main games, but it took forever. Okay, when looking at the menu, it looks kind of clunky. We do have like a moving picture at the right, but look at this, like the Pandora's box at least have like a very nice video, even like for 10 seconds. So I think they will do that simply because it takes up a lot of space on the memory card to do so. But the list itself is kind of, it's horrible. It's like a freaking mess that we have seen like 4 or 5 years ago with the first Pandora's boxes. Like at least add some alphabetic order to this, because this makes no sense. Okay, so let's take a close look at the search function. So let's see how it works and how fast. Mortal Kombat, alright. So that seems to be working just fine and works very fast. But let's play some games and let's see how it actually works on this. Let's start with Mortal Kombat for MAME. Alright, so the reason why we choose Mortal Kombat 1 is very simple. We need to test it out if it runs. If this runs, a lot of MAME games will run fine. But unfortunate, Mortal Kombat 1 is unplayable. So it's a case of like they're putting stuff on it that doesn't work at all. Let's try another MAME game. I'm pressing start and select at the same time. We're going to get ourselves the old school retro. I think it was like retro arcade, quick load, quick save menu. We do can mess around with the controls, but there is no way of starting tweaking with it if it comes to the MAME emulation or messing around with an emulator in general. I've changed the aspect ratio and it looks absolutely horrendous when you're looking this at a widescreen display. The emulation itself is not bad at all. But would that be just a finishing touch if you can basically say like, hey, aspect ratio, original tiny screen, that would be so much better. Yeah, correctly configured, seems like everything's been working fine. I did this part so many times and I just made this epic mistake. Okay, so next up let's try some Super Famicom. I was really curious about this because they somehow they always mess up Super Famicom. See, what the hell is going on with this controller? Like, it seems to be running just fine, but somehow they completely like dropped the ball with Game Boy Advance. It doesn't run on the full 60 FPS that it's supposed to be. Like, it runs really choppy. Some parts are playable, but with the PlayStation 1 part I wanted to do like multiple testing, so you can hear the slowdown here and there. Unfortunately I cannot show you the FPS counter. They lock the system in the back end, so that is the main problem with the body devices. Alright, so the Magic Cube mini box. I must say that I was really surprised with this because, yeah, it's something new. It was something not like exciting. It's magic, absolutely, it's like freaking magic. But yeah, they should call it like the Magic Surprise Cube because this thing was pretty damn cool. It had like a lot of awesome features, like in built-in speaker. Like, it's convenient if you don't have a speaker inside of your monitor. But the reason I have two of them, because this I already have like a couple of years, like I think a couple of years in my collection. This one comes even with a 128GB storage capacity. Yeah, I think it's only like a difference in SD card, but this thing does come with some extra things. And again, let's take a close look at this new version, because the old one, they don't really sell it anymore. So here do have like the device itself. So far I can see there was nothing new over here. So what I was quite interested with the first model, we had like a built-in speaker at the bottom. The on-off switch, that's something quite rare to be honest. Like, we don't have like these on-off switches every single time. A mini HDMI function, so it's quite interesting to use the mini version, the SD card, and of course the Type-C connection for the charge, volume control, and two USB ports. So nothing really fancy. They said I was only going to get one controller, but they did send me two of them. Okay, so let's see what kind of controls we're going to get. They also like sold back in the day with Xbox controllers, but nowadays we do get this one, and these are not bad at all. So I've reviewed them some time ago, and I can say like these controllers are absolutely, I love them. I'm just going to be honest, like these are like the next level of, let's say, fake ones. You can just feel the buttons are like way better quality. They have like a very nice travel. They're still very high when it comes to the positioning. They have like a very long travel, but what's quite interesting, how you can see it from this angle, like the way they position two together, like they're all like strangely like positioned, something I've never seen before. The D-pad is not like your typical D-pad, it's the floating D-pad. We have seen it before, but I personally really like this because, not because it's a little bit higher than normal D-pads, but this display is just amazing. Home button, feel a little bit cheap, select start, and you're just going to get yourself like your typical like analog joysticks, shoulder buttons. Yeah, so I really like it. There's no turbo function. I know like there are a lot of controls out there that have turbo function built in. That's very convenient with the system if you want to play some Schweppes, for example. And not all the thing that we need to what we don't need to forget. Let's take a close look at this. So there is no freaking 5-volt charger, so I'm guessing I'm gonna get myself like a phone charger. Take consideration. Someone like posted some time ago saying like, hey, take consideration there are like fast chargers, you need to be careful. That was a good point he said. Comes with the right cable, so let's plug it in the television. Ooh, forgetting the most interesting part, of course, the toilet paper manual deluxe edition. So you can see like it comes with a very nice manual, and it doesn't explain a lot, but it explains more than enough. But let's take a close look at the device. Okay, so how do we boot it up? So we need to hold the on and off switch for quite a long time, a couple of seconds. So when you're doing it right, it will show you a red and a blue LED, both powering on. And that's it. Within a couple of seconds we'll boot up straight in the main menu. And this is something we've seen before. They were not lying about the multimedia functionality. We do get game, movie, music, theme, settings, image, file, and history. We have seen this before with mini arcades we've reviewed a very long time ago. So let's take a close look at languages. Oh yeah, the English. So you know, like a lot of typos, but we do have like a lot of different languages, even Deutsch and stuff like that. But there's no like my native language is not over here. So display, that's quite interesting to do a full screen and equal proportion. So it's basically the original aspect ratio. So let's put it on there. So let's see where with the open speaker we can turn it on and off. So there's the internal speaker that's inside, that's the thing. And here we have clear, restore, and system information. And this model is called the MX330 version 1.1. And I'm thinking this 2008, so I'm guessing this is not like the latest model. So let's see what we're going to get with the games. But the games do have like very nice pictures. We do have like arcade, Famicom, Game Boy, Game Gear, Game Boy Color. It's kind of weird, like they shown in Game Boy Color within Game Boy SP. Alright, Game Boy Advance, and this is absolutely messed up, like when it comes to the name. Like they spelled game wrong on PlayStation 1 and Super Famicom. So let's try a couple of games and you'll see how it runs. Alright, so they didn't mess it up with the aspect ratio. Okay, so let's try this game out. But so far I can see like it seems to be running just fine. So when you're going pressing the select to start at the same time, we do have the option to make an, let's say, a quick pass to the quick menu. And here we do have like quick to RetroArch, because basically what this thing is running on, a restart, input, and they will have like an option to make a quick load, quick save. So I think that's pretty damn cool. Alright, next up, NES. All the sound effects are here. So also the NES part seems to be running just fine. Ah, oh, crap. Okay, so next up, the reason why I'm listening to the soundtracks, you can just hear sometimes they messed it up big time. No sound delay. You just see some weird glitching over there at the right part of the screen, but so far so good. Alright. Okay, so next up let's take a close look at Sega Game Gear, and of course take consideration we're going to stretch it out, but it will keep this original aspect ratio. I'm not going to put it even on widescreen to bother, because it looks absolutely hideous. Okay, so next up I wanted to try some Mega Drive. And the first impression that it seems to be running just flawlessly. Everything like the sound effects. You can hear everything seems to be working just fine. Let's move on to Neo Geo Arcade. And also this seems to be running just fine. What I personally really love about this controller, navigating with the D-pad works perfectly. Okay, so when it comes to Super Nintendo, they mess it up all the freaking time with this particular game. But what you can see over here, also this part seems to be working fine. And we're guessing because they were using RetroArch with the right emulators, they configured everything like it should be. Combination with the right controller, it plays amazingly. Alright, so for the final test, it's going to be PlayStation 1. There are a lot of these devices claiming to run it, but let's try it out. So most of the time they will run like some older emulators on the original resolution, but these things are not capable of like upscaling it. You can hear a minor hiccup. I think it's forgivable so far. So we can claim that this thing is absolutely like a tiny emulation beast, because this thing can play up to PlayStation 1 without any hassle. And for people watching my channel over here, like, I've reviewed so many of these game boxes and they are having so many issues, handhelds, game boxes, but it seems to be they finally managed to get it right with some of these devices. Okay, so the Retro Quest was absolutely one of those, let's say, very weird looking devices. It was not cheap, it was quite expensive, but I just wanted to make a review about it. And the Retro Quest Super Retro Castle was absolutely something new. Not exciting, because it can play like a lot of old school stuff that we have seen many times before, but it has some new things to it that I really like. So let's do an unboxing and I will show you what I mean. A lot of information on the box, so we just need to open it up. Okay, so inside, looks not bad at all. Everything is packed up in styrofoam. We're going to get... What the hell is this user guide? I don't know exactly where you can buy this, but I picked it up from AliExpress and I did notice there were some other places where you can get it. Okay, yeah, the toilet paper manual, like always. The packaging itself is quite nice. Here we're having the system itself. Here you can see it. And the idea behind this thing is pretty genius, and I'm also very curious what are we going to get. So let's do an overview a little bit later with this. It comes with a very strange cable, okay, a barrel jack with a USB connection. That's something you don't see very often nowadays. We have just a normal HDMI connection and two controllers. But the controllers, that is a slightly different story. So let's take a close look. Let's take a close look at that. Okay, so in the package itself, beside the cables, we're going to get the system itself and two controllers that named a Retro Quest. So the first thing that I do notice with this doesn't feel like the cheap controls I've seen in the past. But before we go any further, let's do a smell test. They don't smell chemical at all, they smell nothing. Wow. And the build quality, they weigh quite heavy. And I can say, they feel almost like an original Super NES controller. The D-pad feels quite nice. Slightly clickish, but not bad at all. So for the controllers, okay, very surprised. Okay, so the system itself, let's take a close look at this. So the design itself, I don't know if this is a familiar design. At first I was thinking maybe this is a pie inside the case. That is what the Chinese are doing all the freaking time. They're selling it like a game system. So we're going to open it up later on in this video. We're having here the power, the reset button, two controller ports over here. At the back we're finding the TF card, HDMI, and of course the one for the power. And there is nothing else. Yeah, the only thing we can do is very simple. Grab yourself a controller and let's play some games. Let's power it on and let's see what we're going to get, because I'm very curious now. Alright, so let's power it on. As you can see, the LED goes on and we're having the special logo at the beginning. Quite interesting. Let's see what's happening more. It also seems to be calling Retropedia. Okay, let's boot it up. Everything is in Asian language, but maybe you can change it out. And it seems to be this thing is just running on the RetroArch. Yep. Alright, so let's take a close look at the support of games. So let's start at the right over here. We're having Sony PlayStation, Sega SG-1000, Sega CD, Mega Drive, Master System, 32X, Super NES, NES, Family Computer Disk System, PC Engine CD, PC Engine TurboGrafx 16, and the arcade games. So the reset button that I'm showing you before here on the system, when pressing this you will go back to the menu itself. We're having all the settings like quick load, quick save, exit, and go to main menu. And of course we can reconfigure the controls if you don't like them. Oh yeah, so out of nothing I found this. So this was from the Datafrog store back in the day. I basically like wrote it on here because this was actually the box I was getting. Like a white box, no information, like none at all. But when you're looking at this version, it was not perfect. It had so many problems like always, but it was so much better. So that's the reason I wanted to put it on basically the #1 position, because I was surprised by it. Absolutely. But let's take a close look at it and show you what I mean. The product itself has been made of plastic, has a very nice weight to it, and the casing itself has this rubber coating. I'm not a big fan of it. The device itself looks a little bit like a TV box. If you look at the back and the connections, we have Ethernet connection, SPIF out, audio out, HDMI out. We have an DC input for 12 volt and an on and off switch. At the side we're finding the setting button that is familiar with all Pandora boxes. This is what we're going to need if you want to go to the settings menu. At the right side we're finding 2 USB connections and an input for the TF card that contain all the files. This is what we're going to get, and for the people familiar to the Pandora Box 3D, for example, this is just exactly the same. The menu, we have in this venue menu here in the big list over here, we can go up and here you can choose, for example, category, recent, and we're having the search option over here and you can search your game. With the category system, here we're having some different titles and different platforms. For example, we're having PSP, PlayStation 1, N64, Famicom, Super Famicom, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color. They still didn't fix it, but this is the Mega Drive, PC Engine, Sega Dreamcast, and we're having arcade that is divided over 2 lists. When you're pressing the button on the side of the system, you're going to the settings menu. Here we're having some configuration options like how you want to set the coin settings. Very strange because we have no arcade function with this, but you can see that it's basically the same layout like the Pandora Game 3D. Key settings and all the other settings that we're going at. For example, HD scan line, you can disable it and we can put them on HD filter. I'm going to disable it for now. We're having account manager, and here you can add your Wi-Fi connection, so you can basically use the Naughty store. With the Game Market store, you can search for new games. I'm not a big fan of it. Very simple because it doesn't work very well. Did see some fellow YouTubers did try to download stuff. Forget about it. Burst setting is very convenient when you want to play some shoot 'em ups. This is what you're going to get.
Round 1.
First we're going to try out Bloody Roar 2, one of the more demanding PlayStation 1 titles, and you can see it is running on the full 60 FPS without any hiccups. N64, as you can see that this game runs very well, but I need to point out that not all the games are running perfectly, and all the glitches I have seen like with Kill Instinct are still here, so keep in mind that N64 is not 100% compatible, but Cruise in the World is running just fine. Sega Dreamcast is always a little bit of a problem playing these on the TV boxes, or better said, the game system from China. But what you can see, it runs very well. Okay, I want to be absolutely clear about one thing. Is that, yeah, the problem is that this is not like the best boxes whatsoever. This is just like the boxes that surprised me, that I thought were going to be super crappy, but in the end, ended up pretty damn good. So I must say, like, the Pandora Game 3D game console, it's very fun, cool novelty to see. Nowadays we do have like so many better options, but again, I still needed a spot in my my top 5 boxes that surprised me. Let me know in the comments which one do you really like.